Welcome back. During this current economic climate, saving money is always in your best interest. But if you want more bang for your buck, group savings, or what we traditionally refer to as Stokvels, may be the way to go. According to Ipsos, the industry is worth an estimated 50 billion rand, made up of 800,000 groups and 11 million members. Andrew Lukhele, founding chair of the National Stokvel Association of SA, joins us to discuss the evolution of the industry, its ins and outs, merits and pitfalls. Andrew, thanks so much for your time this afternoon. And let's start there. The fast-growing market, as I mentioned, has just over 11 million South Africans involved. Talk to me about what appeals to the everyday South African when it comes to these Stokvels.
I think the saving in the country is very important for boosting the economic growth and creating jobs and stuff like that. However, saving as an individual is a challenge for most people. Saving as an individual needs the kind of discipline which many people lack. So by joining a Stokvel, you are finding yourself in a position where you are forced to adhere to that commitment. So a Stokvel gives people a platform where they can save with friends without any strain of, being vetted by an outsider. And
it's interesting to see that, because when you look at data around savings culture, you read headlines around South Africans not saving enough and spending more. So maybe what we do need is that extra push from a friend, from a family member. Let's talk about how these groups have evolved from, just saving money for personal wants and needs to more structured groups where you see some saving for groceries, some saving for holidays.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that there are different types of Stokvels. And those types of Stokvels are driven by people's needs.
Yes.
So I'll belong to a particular group because they subscribe to what I need. I want to commit myself to what these people stand for. Now, you'll have a grocery Stokvel, as you said, of women who bear the burden of having to feed their children and dealing with the high rising prices of food. So you'll have burial societies, which are a type of a Stokvel whose intention is to give people decent funerals in the event of death. So you can find a group of people who are running taxis. They might need a Stokvel to ensure that they get tires on a regular basis because of the lump sum they'll get from the fellow members. So different types describe what people will do with their money and things,
And sticking with those changes, let's talk about what we're seeing when it comes to demographics. I mean, when you think of a Stokvel, you think of older women, older black women. But we are starting to see younger women also, play in that field. I know my friends and I have a Stokvel where we give each other money for your birthday month. So we'll accumulate money, and when it's someone's birthday month, it goes to a specific person. Talk to me about the evolution of, those demographics. And with younger people coming into this market, are we seeing more technological adaptations? Are we seeing more people moving onto WhatsApp in terms of communication?
Yeah. I think in the past, people were restricted in terms of what they could do at Stokvel level. The basic tenet in a Stokvel is trust and peer pressure. Now, to enhance that trust, you need to have regular meetings.
Yes.
To ensure that there's a kind of accountability and to see whether we are still on the same track. However, young people have decided to minimize the frequency of these meetings by using technology in a form of communicating. And even if they put money in the bank, they're able from their own cell phones to monitor the movement of money, which was not the case in the past. And young people, obviously, they are more ambitious and free to maneuver their needs. You have evolution that includes the advent of so-called property Stokvels.
Yes.
So people have found value in long-term investments. People are exploring ways of saving or investing in shares and other platforms that are open to them. So younger people are more innovative than the old ones.
And talking about, innovation, we do know that cash still remains king when it comes to Stokvels.
Yeah.
Why is that the case? Are we maybe seeing or not seeing banking products that appeal to Stokvels? Or is it not knowing that these products are available?
Of course, I talked about different types of Stokvels.
Yes.
The type of Stokvel will determine what we do with the money.
Okay.
There's a type of a Stokvel that says, all of us will contribute our money and give it to you as a cash lump sum. However, a different type of a Stokvel will be a burial society.
Okay.
Because there's a long-term vision. People don't die every day. So there's no need to take money and give it to someone. You'd rather put it in a bank to ensure that selected people, signatories, will be the ones that will monitor that money. So cash will always be there. However, there's a trend away from using cash. Instead, putting money in the bank and putting evidence of money having deposited.
And before I let you go, Andrew, just in terms of trends and what you've seen, let's say throughout the past 5 years, I mean, we are from a period, where in 2020, we saw consumers under pressure because of the pandemic, and that continued through when we then saw high inflation as well as high interest rates. At that point, coming into your 2024, 2025, were we seeing more people save because they were under pressure, taking their last, 200 Rand, 300 Rand, and putting them into those Stokvels? Or was there maybe a withdrawal on that front and there were less members interacting in Stokvels?
Yeah, it's very interesting to find that there hasn't been any serious impact on Stokvel members, according to the things that we've just listed. The reason is that a Stokvel is always the last way of surviving. They can't run away anymore. I think the promise of a better life for all that was expected with the advent of democracy has not translated into benefits to most people. So people still believe in self-help. So people believe that they can pull themselves by their own bootstraps. So that trust is still there. It's part of the community. It doesn't disappear.
And Andrew, before I let you go, we talked about the risks and the trust factor, right? We do have incidents where there are members of Stokvels running away with money. How do we then safeguard? How do we protect the money from incidents like that?
Anyone who takes money away from the people is committing fraud or is a criminal activity. So Stokvel members are not immune from using the law enforcement agencies for recourse. However, the problem is that trust and peer pressure alone is not enough when you take this thing to court. That is why the new thing that is coming up is the introduction of constitutions among Stokvel members, so that when you go to court, you are able to demonstrate that this member has transgraded Act number 3 or whatever. All of us were expected to behave in this fashion, and this one deviated for some reason. Then you can start talking about how do you get your money back.
All right, Andrew, thanks so much for your time and just sharing those insights. That was the founding chair of the National Stokvel Association of SA, Andrew Lukhele.